Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at a story that plays out literally like the ultimate financial heist movie. I'm talking about a tale of impossible math, hidden traps in market plumbing, and this massive collision between everyday retail traders and Wall Street titans. We're going to break down exactly how a group of internet traders spotted a huge vulnerability in the system, how they exploited it to historic effect, and, well, what actually happened when the music stopped. Okay, let's dive right into this. In January 2021, funds had sold short more GameStop shares than actually existed, and an internet forum realized that this arithmetic impossibility was a loaded weapon lying on the table. To understand this setup, just remember that short selling is basically borrowing a share to sell it high, hoping you can buy it back later at a much lower price and just pocket the difference. But you see, the vulnerability here wasn't just that Wall Street was betting against GameStop. No, it was the sheer, unprecedented scale of that bet. Just look at this number. By late January, GameStop's short interest stood at around 140%. I mean, let that sink in for a second. That means 40% more shares had been sold short than actually existed on the open market. Now, to a casual observer, that sounds like a typo, right? Like, how can you borrow and sell more of something than physically exists in the world? But to those paying really close attention, this wasn't a glitch. It was a structural guarantee that if the price ever started to rise, the short sellers would be trapped in a room with only one exit and way too many people trying to squeeze through it all at once. And this brilliantly illustrates how exactly that 140% figure actually happens. It's all through a mechanism called the relending loop. So imagine Fund A borrows a share and sells it short, meaning buyer B now owns it. Make sense? But then, buyer B's broker can actually turn around and lend that exact same share to Fund C, who then sells it short again to buyer D. So suddenly, you have one single issued share backing multiple open short positions. Nothing in the arithmetic breaks here, actually. I mean, every lender is legally owed a share, and every borrower owes one. But it creates this massive vulnerability. It's basically a coiled spring just waiting for a catalyst. To really get a feel for the anatomy of this squeeze, we're going to track 3 fictional participants through this explainer, kind of like characters taking their places on the board before a heist. First up, we've got the early believer. This is a retail investor who read the forum posts, actually understood the 140% math, and buys in mid-January when the price jumps to around $38 on some positive board appointment news. Second, we have the short fund. Think of them as the institutional Goliath, sitting on massive short exposure, entirely confident this failing retailer is going to crash. And finally, the peak FOMO buyer. This is your casual observer, completely unaware of the mechanics and currently just sitting on the sidelines with absolutely zero position. Now, while that 140% short interest was the fuel, the options market provided the accelerant. Enter the gamma squeeze. When retail traders didn't just buy shares, but started buying massive volumes of super cheap, out-of-the-money call options, they completely forced the hand of market makers. You can kind of think of options market makers like casino bookies, right? Their goal is to be completely neutral. They don't want to bet against you, they just want to collect a fee. So when they sell a trader a call option, they instantly hedge their own risk by going straight into the open market and buying the underlying GameStop stock. Let's move to the gamma ramp feedback loop and see how this builds, because this dynamic turns into an unstoppable chain reaction. Here's how it goes. Traders buy call options. Market makers sell them, taking on what's called short gamma exposure. To hedge, those market makers buy GameStop shares. That buying pressure pushes the stock price up. But here's the kicker. As the price rises, the mathematical risk, or the delta, of those options increases, which means the market makers are contractually forced to buy even more shares just to maintain their neutral hedge. It is literally a mechanical cascade of forced institutional buying, driven entirely by retail option demand. This feedback loop creates a breathtaking chronological thrill ride. We start on January 13th at about $38. By January 22nd, as that gamma loop really kicks in and short sellers begin panicking, it hits 65. Then, on January 25th, the pain becomes fatal for some. Citadel has to step in and inject $2.75 billion just to bail out Melvin Capital, which was this massive hedge fund getting completely crushed by its short position. The very next day, Elon Musk tweets, "GameStonk," to his millions of followers, effectively pouring gasoline on the fire, and the stock rockets to 147. And then, on January 27th, the squeeze peaks. The US market sees its highest trading volume in history, and GameStop surges to an insane intraday high of $483 before closing at an astronomical $347.51.
Now, what's really interesting to look at here is checking back in on our characters at the absolute zenith of this mania, because their fates wildly diverge. The early believer, the one who actually understood the mechanics, is sitting on life-changing, massive unrealized gains. The short fund is dying. They're facing catastrophic losses and requiring emergency bailouts because they're being forced to buy shares at over $300 to cover bets they made at 10. But look at our third character, the peak FOMO buyer. Seeing all the hype on the news and on social media, they finally decide to jump in. They are buying at $347, stepping directly into the trap just as the entire system reaches its absolute breaking point.
And here is where the heist movie music abruptly stops. We hit the cold, clinical, unyielding brick wall of market plumbing. To understand why the squeeze ended, we have to talk about clearing collateral. When you buy a stock on a shiny app, it looks instant, right? But in reality, there's a 2-day lag, known as T+2 settlement, between you clicking buy and the actual cash and shares exchanging hands behind the scenes. During those 2 days, clearinghouses require brokerages to post cash deposits, or collateral, just to guarantee those trades won't fail. So when a stock's volatility explodes by thousands of % in a single week, clearinghouses panic. To prevent a cascading collapse of the entire financial system, the Central Clearinghouse, the DTCC, suddenly raised industry-wide collateral requirements from $26 billion to $33.5 billion. For consumer brokerages like Robinhood, this triggered an emergency margin call of roughly $3 billion before the market even opened. Now, it wasn't some shadowy conspiracy to protect hedge funds. It was just brutal, impartial math. Robinhood literally did not have the cash to guarantee their users explosive buying. So, to survive and meet those clearinghouse requirements, they had to raise $1 billion overnight and completely halt the buying of GameStop stock. And with the buying halted, the gamma ramp shattered. The hangover was immediate, and it was severe. Without that constant buying pressure from retail traders and the forced hedging from market makers, gravity just took over. When we look at our participants in February, the reality is incredibly sobering. The early believer who understood the blueprint and exited when the mechanics broke down secured life-changing wealth. The short fund absorbed billions in realized losses, permanently damaged by their own hubris. But the peak FOMO buyer, the ordinary person who bought the hype at the very top, was absolutely crushed as the price collapsed back down to earth. So the crucial point is this: regardless of the populist flags flying on internet forums, market mechanics simply do not care about narratives. The early diamond hands profited massively because they understood the structural vulnerability of 140% short interest and the leverage of a gamma squeeze. But the peak FOMO buyers, they tragically served as exit liquidity. It proved the eternal, unforgiving rule of all market manias. They are ultimately just a mechanism for transferring wealth from the latecomers directly to the early adopters. It leaves us with a profound lesson about the plumbing of our financial systems, the hidden risks of derivatives, and, frankly, human psychology. It's a stark reminder that actually understanding how a machine works is the only way to avoid getting caught in its gears. The crowd can move mountains, mostly onto itself. Subscribe for crypto's turn in the fire next.